Okay, so we've talked about this first bit here already, that the amount of times since somebody visited the site, as well as what they do on the site, is going to determine their potential value to the business. So we want to create a bunch of different audiences so that each audience is as similar as possible, but we don't want to go so granular that this thing becomes impossible to manage. And if we go too granular, if we build audiences that are too small, then Google won't show our ads because for privacy reasons, they won't allow you to target a group of 1 or 2 people because then you might know exactly who that person is based on their behavior on the site, and Google might get sued and they don't want that to happen. So the absolute minimum size of an audience that you can have is 100 people. The practical reality, though, I typically aim for a minimum of 500 to 1,000 people in a remarketing audience, all the way up to around about 10 to 20,000. So it's a very big range, 500 to 20,000. But if you're sort of aiming for single-digit thousands, you know, 2, 3, 5, up to 10,000, and then maybe 20,000 on the outside, you're probably going to go okay. Now, the caveat to that is obviously don't go too crazy. Have I got that in here? I think I have. Um, if you've got 2 million monthly users or a huge site, then you're not going to go create a whole bunch of 5,000 people audiences because, again, that would just be far too much to manage. You might get there over time if you saw amazing results, but you're definitely not going to start there. And this is about starting with something that's better than that one big bucket, getting you a much better starting point so that you are much more likely to be profitable with remarketing. And then as you see results, then you can start to refine the strategy a little bit more, but don't go too crazy, don't go too granular. So we're going to use a series of questions here to help guide the strategy. I'm a big believer in that questions are the answer, that asking the right questions is what you need to do rather than just be handed a bunch of answers. And it's funny, all the books I'm reading at the moment, all the books I've read in the past few months have reinforced this idea that questions are everything. So we need a bit of context to start with. So I'll just run through these and then we'll dig into each of those questions a bit more. What's the sales process? So again, if you're doing this for lead gen, you're going to need to map out the funnel and understand the steps that somebody goes through on the way to purchasing. For ecom, that's a bit simpler. And an additional question, which Trevor on the team reminded me to ask in here, is why don't people buy? What might be stopping them? And there might be a few different reasons for that. What are the main groups of users? So we're going to look at our data in a minute and look at what are the main groups that it makes sense to remarket to. We might look at the website as well there to just think about a bit of common sense, what's likely to be happening, and then we'll go confirm that with data. And a really critical question, what do I have to play with here? Like what existing data, what existing traffic, sorry, is there coming through this website? Are we talking 1,000 people a month, or are we talking 2 million people a month? Knowing that number right at the start determines a whole heap of things with your strategy. And then what timeframes make sense? Based on the buying process that somebody is going through, is this something that most people typically buy within a day of their first visit on the site? Is it more of an impulse purchase? Or is this something that people are thinking about maybe for months and months and months, in which case your remarketing strategy is likely to be quite different. So the next video, we'll start diving into those questions in more detail.